This is the Projekt Gemineye Update, your source for all things Projekt Gemineye. Brought to you by Riffical Records. And here's your host, Mark Anthony K. Greetings and welcome to a special look into the upcoming Projekt Gemineye album, What Lies Beyond. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about Side A of the album. Side A consists of two songs, one of them being Cyber Wonderland, which opens the album, and the second track, which is The Angel Screamed. Now, the opening track is 5 minutes long, and the second track is 14 minutes and 45 seconds. Hence why there's only two songs on the side of the vinyl. I'll be talking about the lyrics, the making of the music, and I'll even play a little bit of each song so you guys can take a listen to what will be coming up on the record and see if it tickles your fancy, so to speak. So without any further ado, let's get on with Side A. Alright, so track 1, Cyber Wonderland. So this song was actually written about halfway through the writing sessions for this album. What came to me first was the opening riff. And you know, some people might say, well, of course that's the first thing that came to you, but it's not always the case. Sometimes what I find with my writing is that I usually try to come up with a catchy part right away, and usually those parts end up being the chorus of my songs, which are, you know, sometimes 2 minutes into the song, sometimes 6 minutes into the song. It depends, but usually those are the parts that come to me first. But in this instance, the opening part of the song came to me first, and it reminded me very much of mid-80s Queensryche, like Rage for Order, maybe even a little bit of Operation Mindcrime. Which I thought was a good place to start. So I took that part, recorded it, and in Pro Tools you can move stuff around, stuff like that. So I stuck it at the beginning, not knowing if I was going to keep that as an intro or maybe in another part of the song, but it ended up being the opening part of the tune. After that, the verse parts came to me, which I wanted to have very melodic in there. And usually when I have these kinds of parts happening, I end up combining acoustic guitar and clean guitar and blend it together. It's something that lots of bands do. Bands like Rush, Dream Theater. John Petrucci is known very well for doing this sort of thing where he'll combine an acoustic guitar sound with a very, very clean single coil Strat sort of sound, which is exactly what I did as well. Now, his is a little bit more chimey sounding than mine. I find that mine's a little bit more acoustic heavy and less electric guitar, electric clean heavy. So once that part was done, those two parts were done, I kind of had a basis of the structure of the song. What fills in the rest of it is a lot of Moog Taurus bass pedal stuff, which you can hear a lot underneath in there at the beginning, in the verse parts, in the choruses. I mean, it's all over in this song. And really, there's not a lot of keyboards otherwise in this song. There's just a little bit of pads at the top. The chorus has it, but the verse parts and the pre-chorus parts are pretty limited in the keyboard stuff. And which is odd because I tend to have a lot of keyboards in my songs lately. Not like crazy stuff, but you know, a lot of you know, strings or pads or little lines here and there that maybe are sort of like a Moog sound. But this one I wanted to keep it a little more sparse for that. Yeah, so let's hear a little bit about let's hear a little bit of that now. Okay, so there you have a little bit of the music. Now let's talk a little bit about the lyrics of this song. This song was inspired by a National Geographic article I saw when I was at my local magazine or bookstore that I read while I was waiting there. I believe I went there to pick up something, but I saw the magazine there in the corner of my eye, and I decided to read a bit of it. It was very interesting, and there was also another article similar to it in another one of these science fiction or science tech magazines that are around, talking about AI and the effect that it has on the young generation and just people in general, not just the youth. So this is not something that's clearly limited to the younger people. It's also something that's a concern for all people. AI being artificial intelligence, you can now, and they now have in development, all kinds of stuff that you can interface with the internet as well as with video games, and this is a big thing now. There was a commercial that I saw not long ago with Ozzy Osbourne of all people sitting in his living room with these AI goggles on, playing a video game where he was slaying a dragon or something, and he became so enraptured with it that he ended up staying in his house. And in the next scene, after they cut from the game itself, you see him sitting by himself in a completely empty house with just a chair, the television, and him sitting in the chair with this AI goggle on playing this game. I know it's supposed to be a joke, but in this article, they hint at this being a reality, that people will become so enraptured with this sort of technology that they may lose themselves in it. In the article that I read, they had an example of a young kid who became so involved in one of his video games, he would end up spending 12 to 14 hours a day in his room. He wouldn't come out of it. He would, in the morning, grab a whole bunch of food, bring it into his room, lock the doors, and if he had to go to the washroom, he would use empty 2-liter bottles, pop bottles, and just piss in there instead of going to the washroom, which is getting a bit extreme if you ask me. The song basically talks about how some of us may become more comfortable discussing some of our secrets within the internet world rather than talking to actual people, which is dangerous because sometimes you don't know who you're talking to, and some of this information could be used against you. The article ends with an interesting line that I remembered, and I want to mention is, and I put this in my little small ad that I made. I made a little promo ad about this song before. It's on my YouTube channel here, where I said, when human medicine stops working, where do we go? The cyber wonderland, which is something that is quite possible if we're not careful. You know, when people get into depression, when people get, into some sort of mental state that is not healthy, instead of having a doctor come and take care of it, or maybe the doctor's medications are not working enough to remedy whatever depression or whatever thing that they might be having trouble with. This National Geographic article says in there that it might become a situation where people will search for answers within, this cyber wonderland. So this is really what the basis of this whole song is about. Again, it's the lyrics in this album. I want to stress this now. The lyrics in this album are not meant to be preachy. They're not meant to be finger pointing, like don't do that. But I have kind of approached it more as like warnings or a message or more of an awareness thing, like be careful of this sort of stuff. So I really hope it's taken that way and not in a very negative way, because I hope that some of these messages might bring awareness to some situations. Okay, so that's it for this song, I think. Let's go on to the next song, which is The Angels Screamed. Okay, so The Angels Screamed. This is the epic of the album. This one clocks in at 14 minutes and 45 seconds. Now, when I wrote this song, and this was the first song that I wrote for the album. Actually, well, there was two songs that I kind of worked on before, but this is the actual first song from the from the songs I wrote that I thought were good enough to use on the album. So this was I think the third song written, but the first one that I felt was worth keeping. I didn't go in with the plan of it being a huge epic. I never go in with that sort of frame of mind where I'm like, I'm going to make a 19-minute song today. I just started it off with, like I always do, with parts and see where it comes from there. I believe the verse part was the first part that came to me, which was like a kind of rocked out sequence on electric guitar. Very much riff oriented in E, I believe it is. I'm trying to remember. It's either an E or an A. I can't remember at this time which one it is. But very sort of, rocked out power chords, stuff like that. Once again, not a lot besides drums, bass, guitar, and vocals in the verse part. What's different on this, though, is that Joe Bailey is involved a lot as far as orchestration parts go. And in this song, Joe added quite a lot of orchestration parts in it, and I think it really helped make the song more grandiose and epic because of it. In the verse parts, you'll hear it. In the opening section, you'll hear it. It is peppered across many sections of the song. So let's quickly just take a listen to a couple of examples of the orchestration in this song.
This land once filled with beauty has turned to dust. This war has brought an end to all we know and love.
So there you go, is a great example of how the orchestra can add so much to a part and give it that sort of grandiose and epic feel to a song. There's a lot of different sections in it, and I thought it was important when writing a song like this that has so many different ups and downs that lyrically it should have something similar going on to it as well. Now, quite obviously the lyrics are based around a war. Now, right away people will pin it to the Ukraine war, and the thing about this is that while it may have been my inspiration for the lyrics, it doesn't necessarily have to be based on that specific war. Another sort of inspiration for this song came from within my own family. My parents went through the ordeal of when the Soviet Union rolled their tanks into Czechoslovakia back in the 60s. And when the whole thing started in the Ukraine here, the look on my mom's face when it started was very telling. Memories of what happened back then kind of probably rushed into her head. And I took that time to sort of sit down with her and talk to her a little bit about it and kind of get her memories on it, and took some of those memories and put it into the song itself. So a little bit of that is sprinkled in this as well. So like I said, it's not directly tied to one specific war. There are many sort of wars that could be found within the context of this song. Which word is, to me, is not important. I think the message is important, that, people suffer in these things, sometimes unnecessarily. And war is not an easy thing to go through. I really wanted to put that out there in the message. Again, I don't want this to be taken as overly political or taken as too, war is bad, but I mean, of course, I'm not a supporter of war, but you know what I mean? I'm just trying to put across messages, and, awareness of things that, sometimes the people that suffer in this the most are the people that you least expect, children, there's a line in the lyrics in there that I have in here where it says, the children laugh and play in the broken playgrounds while the parents, kneel and pray in the broken church grounds. So I liked having that sort of contrast where even in war, the innocence of children can still pop out, where they'll find a playground, whether it's broken or not, and they'll find a way to play in there and have fun, while the parents, knowing the extent of what's going on, find a place for solace, like a church, and even if the church is destroyed or partially broken, they'll still find some solace in it and try to pray there and hope for something better to come around. So it's messages, you know what I mean? I'm trying to just, tell stories, through song. So this song is very much based around that war and the effects that it has on people, and just maybe my take on it. There's no right and wrong, I feel, in this. It's just storytelling. So that is a little look at The Angel Scream. In this song, there was a lot of different guitars used. I used my Les Paul. I used even my double neck that's right there for some of the guitar playing, for the 12-string mainly. For little sections, in the breakdown parts where there was just an electric guitar or maybe an acoustic part, double it a bit with the 12-string. Again, the orchestra is the thing that kind of, I think, boosted this song and gave it that sort of lift that it needed. And I really was happy with the way that turned out. So that's a look right now at side A. The next episode I'll take a look at side B, which has the songs Seed and Soil, which is about 6.5 minutes long, and the other epic song, which is called I'm Free, which is about 11 minutes 20 seconds long. We'll talk about those on the next episode. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. Leave a like or leave a comment, and I will get back to you guys soon with the next episode. Bye for now. After the questions being asked, after the storms have stopped, when all of the stories have been told, we are only left to wonder what lies beyond. Coming this spring, the new album from Projekt Gemineye, What Lies Beyond.